I'm Dr. Mahammad Rafi, Associate Professor, Department of Cybersecurity at Institute of Aeronautical Engineering. Today I want to discuss about computer network subject, in which the topic is a data link layer protocols. Here, outcomes of a data link layer, the protocols. The outcomes of the data link layer, the protocols are reliable data transmission. With help of this data link protocol, the transmission should be very reliable between the two other devices can be achieved. Ensures now which is error free ordering delivery of the frame between the directly the connected devices. That means in these other devices, data transmission should be very reliable. Efficient medium access. Efficient MAC, that is a MAC means medium access as a control. Here is the data link the protocol. So it is another outcome which is managing the data across over shared medias. Different the shared the medias. So in a shared medias now, with help of this the protocol now, preventing the any collisions or the crashes and maximizing the bandwidth with help of these the protocols. That means now optimizing the bandwidth by optimizing this the bandwidth now, high data rate can be transferred over the transmission media. And address resolution, we can do the address resolution. Address resolution purpose now we can use the IARE protocol. These IARE protocol, by supporting of this now data link with the support of the data link protocol, so which is mapping the IP address to the MAC address. Internet the protocol address to the MAC address now. So with help of this the MAC address, particular the destination can be identified, effectively transferring the estimated at the destination. Now which is enabling the communication over the local area network, that is a local other networks. And the next the outcome is the enhanced network security. Now these with help of these is the protocol data link layer, the protocol of the transparency now, which is detecting and mitigating the threats over the data link layer. Whatever by mitigating the threats over the data link layer, now providing the high security whatever the data we are transferring over the network. So these are all the outcome of the data link layer protocols. Here this data link the layer of the protocol, the meaning is which is responsible for the communication between the devices. So on the same network, and which ensures the reliable transmission of the data. That means here with help of this data link the protocol, the data transmission, effective data transmissions can be done, and reliable the communication can be done. Reliable the communication, that means here now without error the data can be transferred to the that identified as a particular identified as a destination, whatever the destination we are going to identify, that identified as a destination now data can be transferred. Some of the common data link the protocols over this in a communication the media, that is Ethernet protocol. Ethernet that means IEEE 802.3 protocol. Here these are the protocol which is mostly used in a local area network of the protocol, as a local area network protocol. So with help of this IEEE 802.3 protocol now, the data transfer rate, the speed can be increased. That means now which is supporting the high data rate the transfer. Data will be transferred with high data. Why? Because now the bandwidth here with help of this the data link layer the protocols optimizing the bandwidth. By optimizing the bandwidth now, So with help of this Ethernet the protocol, that is IEEE 802.3 as the protocol now, the data rate should be very high speed. So next point to point protocol, that is PPP, triple P, that is a point to point as a protocol. So these generally point to point protocols, generally we are using the dial-up the connections, supporting the direct connections between the two nodes. Here, whenever we are connecting the two PCs or the two switches or two routers now, so that means here two PCs, that means each and every PC will be considering it as a one node. So the connection, whenever two PCs are directly connected, in this case, now we can use the point to point as a protocol. By using this as a point to point as a protocol now, we can transferring the data. So protocol in the sense here, the meaning of this the protocol means here now, which is a frame with a set of rules and regulations. By following that the rules and regulations, data transparency can be done from the one device to the another device. That means node to another node, one node to another node. Effective data transparency can be done with help of these protocols. Now, these are the protocols which carry the information. Here, high level data link control protocol. So, this high level data link control protocol generally which is used in a point to point, that means node to node communication. Here, node to node communication or PC to PC communication, or this HDLC, this is the protocol we can use point to multi point communication on a wide area networks. That means here client servers. So best the example for this the protocol usage is a client servers. So that means here the server, the single server, many clients, that is a multi-client communication. In a multi-client communication, what we'll do now, multiple clients. We can use the multiple clients single server. From this the single server providing the services to the multiple clients with help of the HDLC protocol. Here is link control protocol, that is a LCP protocol, link control protocol. Generally, this link control protocol is used within the point to point to establishing or configuration of the network and testing the data link connections. That means now, so linking can be here point to point, node to node communication. If you want to transfers the data from one node to another node here. So first you have to establish the link between the two nodes. After establishing the link two nodes now, then data transparency can be done. So that means here, so it is used within the point to point to establishing the other connections. Now which is linking and configuring the devices and configuring the network. Whatever the devices you are using for data transparency, whatever the networks now you are using for, that will be configured. After the configuration only here, the data transparency can be done. And testing the data link connections. So these are all the can be done with help of the link control the protocol. Next, the protocols are the here. Next, the protocols are frame relay, asynchronous transfer mode, and MAC. Frame relay is the protocol. So this the protocol generally can be used for WAN connections. Whenever now we are using the wide area network connections, by using wide area network connections, so or telecommunication network. So in this telecommunication network or wide area network the connections now, these the frame relay the protocols can be used. This is a very oldest version protocols, frame relay. So it is in a older protocols generally for WAN connections, and generally it will be used in a telecommunication networks. Next, this asynchronous transfer mode, that is a ATM. So ATM is used for high speed data transfer. So high speed data transfer in the means here bandwidth will be optimized bandwidth in which, especially in a backbone network. Now it is utilized in a backbone network. So in this the backbone, with the help of this the backbone network, now the bandwidth will be the high bandwidth can be provided. So if it is once the bandwidth is a very high bandwidth, now high more data can be transferred. That means more data with speed also, very high speed data can be transferred with the help of this asynchronous the transfer mode protocols. Now MAC protocols, that is a medium access protocol. So next data link layer of the protocol is a medium MAC protocols. So MAC protocols now generally here, which is same now how governing the how devices on the same network communicated to avoiding the collisions. That means here now which is determined how it is how it is communicated by avoiding the other communication means now MAC the manufacturer, what they will do here with help of this MAC address, now the manufacturer giving the unique MAC address for each and every device. With help of this unique MAC address, so these are the protocols what will do here now, identifying the particular other device on the same other network, so which will be communicated without other collisions. CSMA and CD or CSMA or CA are the examples for this other protocol. Here, this is a medium access control other protocol. With these other protocols, we are avoiding the collision. Collision-free transmissions can be done. That means the communication is very reliable. And fiber channels. Fiber channels generally primarily used in a storage area. That means storage area network, that is a SAN networks for high speed data transfers. Generally here fiber optics. Fiber optics are the cable. Now fiber channels means here fiber optics are the cable. Generally these fiber optics cables are primarily used in a SAN, that is a storage area networks for high speed data transfer. High speed data wherever now the high speed data transfers are utilizing, that means now their bandwidth will be the optimized. Token ring protocol, that is IEEE 802.50. It is a token ring as a protocol. It is also old local area network of the protocol. Here, this is the protocols. That means now systematically networked. Systematically, that means now whatever the devices are connected in the form of the ring, in the form of the token, in the form of the token ring. That means here, so the data, the packets effectively transferred between the devices. Whatever the devices are arranged in the form of the tokens now. So it will be transferred. That means now today, but historically used in a networked systems. These the protocols are whatever the systems are working under the networking condition. That means it may be the local area networking or wide area networking or metropolitan area networking. So on these networked system other conditions only. So these the protocols can be utilized. Generally, these the protocols are operate at the data link layer. Data link layer is the second layer of the OSI reference model. First, so it is this data link layer having in between the physical layer and network layer. The data link layer generally here transmitting the data frames. Transmitting the data of the frames. Data frames from one device to the another device. Over the physical media now, it will be the transfer. That means now this is the data link layer now. That is a layer 2 in a OSI reference model. So which is responsible for the node to node data transfers and error other checking. Here, these are all the data link layer other protocols. Here, the definition now, these are the protocols we are using in a data link layer. Data link layer. So, for transferring the data frames. The data link layer is a second layer of the OSI reference model. That is a open system interconnection model. Main the task of this the data link layer now. So, which is transferring the data in the form of the data frames. And also, these are the data link layer now, which is responsible. The data link layer now, which is responsible here, which is providing the communication error free. Error free data can be transferred. Whatever the data now transferring without error, now we can transferring the data from one device to the other device. Efficient and effective the communication can be done. Whatever the nodes are connected. Here, efficient the communication will be established between the two nodes or between the two devices. That means the connected nodes. Connected nodes, nodes means it may be the computers. Two nodes means computers. So it may be the switches or it may be the routers. So these are the routers or switches will be considered as a nodes, the connected nodes. So these are the connected nodes here, which this data link layer now, which ensuring that data, the correct data is whatever the data you are transferring from the source to destination. That means now the correct data transferring, correct data transmitting over the physical layer media. That means over the physical media, the data will be the correct, effective data can be transferred. This is the task of the data link layer. That means what it is doing, error-free transmissions can be done. Exactly the destination, whatever the destination is required, that required the data can be transferred with help of the data link layer of the protocol. Here is the data link layer is the second layer of the OSI reference model. Here, generally in a data link layer, generally we are consider the framing concepts. Framing. Framing means here, the meaning of the framing means raw bits can be arranged as a data frames from the physical layer into the frames. That means here physical layer, if you take the physical layer, that the physical layer now in OSI reference model, physical layer which is transferring the raw data. That means in the form of the bits 1 0 1 0 1 1 1 in the form of the bits now, which is going to the transferring. Here is the data link layer above the physical layer now. The data link layer, whatever the data is the transferring now, which will be arranged as a frames 1 0 1 0 is a one frame and 1 1 1 1 1 is a another frame. So in the form of the data frames, data frame. So that's why the data can be with help of this the data link the layer with the protocols here. Now the framing can be done to the other data. That means framing means organizing the raw bits from the physical layer into the data link layer. That means the next concern is a error detection correction can be done with help of the this data link layer. Here this is the data link layer here, detecting the errors and correcting the errors by using some mechanisms. That means CRC, checksum. So different are the mechanisms by using that mechanisms now. Whatever the data we are going to transferring from the sender to the receiver. So in which now if any errors are arise, that errors can be detected by using some other mechanisms and corrected itself without retransmitting the data. So this can be done. Flow control mechanism. Next primary next concern of this layer is a flow control can be done by using this data link layer. So the flow control means what we are doing now, managing the data rate which data is sent to the avoided congestions. That means here now data, whatever the data sent by the sender, controlling the rates. That means controlling data rates can be other controlled, and which is avoiding the other congestion. That means that the flow of data can be controlled with help of the data link layer. Data flow can be other controlled and avoiding the other congestions. Data loss can be avoided by flow control other mechanism. Here, that expected data can be sent to the other destination. Access control. Access control means here now, so which is the controlling the access. That means how the devices are accessing, how the devices are sharing the resources. Oh, in case of wide or wireless other networks now, so that will be control the resources. Resource management can be other done. Resources can be other controlled. The devices identified as the devices, authenticated devices only can be accessed. So by with this the concern, that is the access control the mechanism. Only the particular identified the devices only accessed. Remaining the devices cannot be accessed. That means in case of the wide communication or wireless other communication, so this access control can be considered. Here is introduction to the data link layer. Now, the data link layer is the second layer in the OSI reference model. So, these are the layer act as the bridge between the upper layer, that is a network layer, and the lower layer between the physical layer. Here, now from the upper layer, that is a network layer, to the physical layer, generally at upper layer in the network layer, data can be transferred in the form of the packets to the data link layer. So once the data is received in the form of the packets, now at the level of the data link layer, that the packets can be converted into the data frames. So these are the data frames. Now it will be transferred to the lower layer, that is over the physical layer. So in the form of the bits, the data will be converted in the form of the bits. Here is at network layer, the packets data here we are sending in the form of the packets. Now once if it is reaches to the data link layer, here, so these the packets can be divided into the number of data frames. So these are all the data frames. The packets can be divided into number of data frames. Once if it is reaches to the physical layer, so these are the packets can be transferred in the form of the bits. So it is converted in the form of the bits, that is 10, 10, 1, 1, 1. So in the form of the bits, now the data transparency can be done over the, so that the transparency, finally the data transparency can be done over the physical layer, physical network only. Here these are all the key responsibilities of the data link layer: framing, error detection, and flow control and access control. Generally in a data link layer protocol, so sub layers, we are using the two types of the sub layer. This data link layer, now whatever the data link layer we are using in a OSI reference model, this data link layer is often divided into the two sub layers. So with the help of these two sub layers, now we can handle the data effectively. The task can be performed effectively. The data communication can be done very efficiently from one device to the another device, from one node to the another node. What are that which is having two sub layers means? First one is a logical link control sub layer. This logical link layer sub layer means, now this layer now is responsible for identifying and managing the logical link between the devices or between the nodes, and which is providing the error the control and flow control mechanism. Here, whatever the data we are transferring, so the data without errors now, without errors, that can be the transfer. Flow control also, the data rate also now controlling the data rates. So that means based on the bandwidth, the available bandwidth here, the data can be transferred from the one node to the another node. By transferring this the data like this now, so it will be the data the rate the data transparency can be the control. That means the required the data can be transferred. Here is the medium and access control. Medium access control, that is a MAC address, that is a medium access control. What it is doing now, which is identified at the device first, which will be identified with help of the MAC address. Each and every device having its own MAC address. With help of this the MAC address now, so the device can be identified. By identifying this at the device now, the data transparency transmitting the data on a shared medium and without other conflicts. If it is not identified now, the conflicts or the congestions will be arrived. That's why here these MAC address, these are the sublayer now, which is handles the access to the physical transmission media over the physical transmission media now, which is handling the data. Here, some of the real-time applications of the data link layer are Ethernet LAN. Ethernet LAN now, these data link layer can be utilized here, which is the Ethernet LANs now. If you take the Ethernet LANs, these Ethernet LANs which is providing the very reliable communication, very reliable and very efficient the communication between the two devices over the local area network. Here, the local area now, Ethernet now we are using now. That means now local area network can be provided for the other communications. By providing this local area network now, over this local area network, the data can be organized into the data frames. Here, whatever the data we are going to transferring, that the transferable data can be organized into the data frames. And managing the error detections. So whatever the errors are detected, and that should be the corrected, and managing that other detections and controlling the error the transfer between the two devices over the Ethernet LAN. So this is the data link layer of the protocol. Here now we can use the Ethernet LAN for other communication. Wireless Wi-Fi wireless and the fidelity, that is a wireless LAN. So these wireless LAN now, we generally without other wires now, which is the providing the data, which is so in this Wi-Fi here now we are going to providing the communication without other connections are. So that's why here now this is the wireless over this wireless LAN, so which is enabling the wireless other communication between the devices using the media access other control. Here with help of this medium access other control now, so the wireless other communication can be done. So sublayers to handle these sublayers now handle to accessing the shared wireless other media. Without other connection oriented, the data communication can be done within a fraction of it. That means data transfer rate is a very high with a very high speed. We can transferring the data, we can sending the data with help of the wireless LANs. Here point to point other protocols. Point to other point other protocols. It's one of the real-time application generally which is used for direct other connection between the two devices. For example, DSL and VPN other connections. Here, this is the DSL and VPN connection now, which is ensuring the correct data transmissions can be done over a serial link. Now, whatever the data we are transferring, that should be very correct data without error data. That will be the transfer. That is a very reliable. The data transmission should be very reliable in a point-to-point the protocol. So Bluetooth also. Bluetooth is also which is managing the communications between the other devices. Whatever the devices we are using between the devices here, which manage the other communication in a close proximity and using the error control and flow control and the mechanisms and which management the flows, and streaming messages can be exchanged. Streaming the data exchange can be done. Effective data exchange can be efficiently can be done. So this is the Bluetooth use of the Bluetooth. Now managing the other communication between the any wireless other devices. Frame relay and frame relay also now we are using this real time. This is also one of the real time application. So it is used in a wide area network connection for providing the efficient and cost data transmissions. ATM, asynchronous at the transfer mode. Asynchronous at the transfer mode also now, which is handles the high speed data rate of the voice, videos and data in a multimedia applications. Any multimedia applications are Netflix, so any video streaming, audio streaming now, which is ensuring the timely and error-free delivery to the particular identified the destinations. Here, satellite as a communication also. So here this data link layer, which is manages the errors and detecting the errors, correcting the errors, flow control that can be done. So in a satellites, here is the data the framing for the communication between the ground stations and satellites now. The framing, data framing, with this the data framing technology, by utilization of the data link layer now, we can manage the communications. Now the satellites now provide the effective communication and efficient the communication in the form of the data frames. The communication can be done in the satellites in the form of the data frames. In the form of the data frames now, the communication can be done in a satellites. So here is these are all the real-time application. Now we can see this real-time the application here. Application diagram now. Data link layer, data link Ethernet LANs, data link protocols can be used, and here is the Bluetooth point-to-point of the protocol. Here next the frame relays and frame relay. Here is the satellite as the communication. Satellite as the communication, ATM, medium access as the control. So Bluetooth are the devices and Bluetooth satellite arrays and also the Wi-Fi, Ethernet. So point to point are the protocols, asynchronous are the protocols, Ethernet, LAN, Wi-Fi. So these are all the real-time applications of the data link layer are the protocols. So textbooks for this data link layer of the protocol is Data of the Communication and Networking, Tata McGrail, 5th edition, 2012, and also Antivirus of the Tenenbaum, David the Computer of the Networks, 5th edition, 2010. So these data communication and networking and computer networks, these are the textbooks for data link layers protocol for the references. Thank you.
Like, share and subscribe. Hit the bell icon for more updates.